Hi class, this is Miss Bacon, and here's the lecture for chapter 14, all about written communications. So it's really important in the office. There's lots of correspondence that you can send to patients, and you need to always be professional in your written correspondence. So here we're really talking about letters. So just remember, don't ever send an email to a patient because it's not HIPAA compliant, it's not secure, and you don't want the patient to respond with some sort of protected health information that can be hacked into from the outside. So we're just going to be talking about letters today that we can send to patients. So the letters that we compose need to be of quality. They need to be professional because they reflect the standards of the office. So if you ever have to write a letter to a patient, make sure that it's organized into key points, that you have a professional tone of voice, you use a language that the reader will understand. So you don't want to use medical terminology. You want to use just terminology that it's like layman's terms. And make sure that your sentences don't run on and your sentences contain one idea or thought. Also, it's really important with your letters to spell check them, right, in Microsoft Word, as well as proofread your letter. So once you compose it, make sure to reread it, because oftentimes when we type, we are just typing so fast that we skip over words that are supposed to be put into our sentences. So you might find some missing words that you can just input, and then your letter will be nice and polished. So this chapter, it focuses on the components of a business letter and the different types of letter formats we have. So when we're composing a business letter, these are the elements that you should include in your letter and the order in which they go, as well as the spacing requirements. So at the very top, you're always going to have the outside address. So that is going to be the person sending the letter, right? So if you're sending it from the medical office, it should say something like Hoag Medical Group, the street address, city, state, zip code. It'll say that. That's the outside address. And then you'll hit enter a couple of times, and you'll get to the date line. So you always want to type it out. You don't want to say something like 12/5/20. You want to type it out as I have here on the slide. That is what is expected. So that would go underneath the outside address, and then you'll skip or hit enter 2 times. And now you're at the inside address. So that is the recipient or the person that you're sending the letter to. So usually in the medical office, you're going to be sending it to a patient. So you'll have the patient's name, then their street address, city, state, zip code. That's the inside address. And then you'll press enter 2 times. And the next line is the salutation. So that's the greeting. That's where we say, "Dear Mrs. Smith." "Hello, Mrs. Smith." "Greetings, Mrs. Smith." "Hi, Mrs. Smith." Those are all forms of salutations. And after the salutation, you want to use a colon, which are these 2 little dots here. And then you will press enter 2 times. And now, if you wanted to, you could put a subject line like, RE for regarding, colon, and you can say whatever it is it's regarding. And then you would press enter 2 times, and then you would compose the body of the letter, which is basically the reason why you're writing the letter, the purpose of it. And definitely between paragraphs, press enter a couple of times, because it's easier to read in chunks rather than a big, huge paragraph. So you can break up your body into paragraphs as needed so it's easier to read. And then you would have your closing, which should match your salutation. So you can say something like sincerely, comma, best regards, comma, thank you, comma. That is a closing. And then you press press enter 4 times because you want to give yourself enough space to sign. But usually you're writing these letters for your doctor, right? So you're giving space for your doctor, and then you'll type your doctor's name, and you will print out the letter, give it to your doctor to sign. And that is sort of the strategy you want to use for typing up a letter. Now, moving on. Another thing too, underneath the doctor's name, right, you'll press enter twice. You have here reference initials, right? So in uppercase, you can have the initials of your provider. So here I have Stanley Wasbin, SW, / and then my initials, Amy Bacon, right? So you can put that in there so that if anyone wants to look back, they can say, okay, Dr. Wasbin wrote this letter, but Amy composed it for him on his behalf. And then if you pressed enter a couple of times, you could even put in that there's an enclosure. So an enclosure is basically an attachment to the letter. So it could be like, the letter is talking about someone's lab results, right? And that they were normal. And then the enclosure are a copy of the lab results themselves. Copy notation is basically indicating that you are sending a copy of this letter to another person, and it indicates that person's name. Postscripts is, an additional little comment, a PS to the letter. I wouldn't do that though. I don't think that's really professional. So just leave that off. And you can even do continuation of page headings if you want, but I don't really do that. Usually letters are 1 page in length, so you don't really have to worry about that. So in terms of letter styles, I work at Hoag and we have lots of templates built into my EMR that I can click on and really quickly create a letter. So oftentimes, I have a student who's sick and they can't return to school the next day. They have to take a week off because the doctor said so. So I will draft up a letter, saying, please excuse the student from school. The doctor says that they can return to school once they have no fever, something like that. But it's a template in my EMR that I just click on, and I have to just do minor adjustments, and I simply print it out, and then the doctor signs it. So I'm not really thinking what I'm supposed to write. It's already there, built into the system. There's also templates reminding patients to get their preventative testing done. There's templates excusing employees from work, and when they can return back to work. There are templates, excusing patients from jury duty. It's crazy. There's so many templates built into the EMR. There's a template for any sort of situation that you need to create a letter for a patient. So there's lots of letters built into your EMR. And we also at Hoag, if we have patients that are no-shows to their appointment, upon the 3rd no-show, we're supposed to start sending them a no-show letter. And so there we have a template there, and we simply, it's a Word document, and we copy and paste it into my EMR, and I just, make some minor adjustments, input the patient's name, the doctor's name, etc. And I print out this letter to remind patients that when you're a no-show, it's really harmful to the practice because we've reserved that time for you. You didn't show for your appointment. And now other patients who we could have seen, we weren't able to see because we thought we were going to see you. So we have that ability too. You can, copy and paste something from a Word document into your EMR to create a letter. So there's lots of templates we have at our disposal for correspondence purposes. Now, this next section, I just want to show you the different types of letters. This one is called the full block. And you can see it's called a full block because everything is justified to the left or at the left margin. And honestly, this is the letter you typically see from anybody. And this is the type of style we have in our EMR. So I would use this when you are composing letters, a full block style. Everything is to the left margin. And it has all those elements we talked about previously. Next up, we have the standard modified block. So in here, in this one, there's just some minor adjustments. So the date line, which is right here, the complimentary close where it says sincerely or something like that, and then also the signature line. Those are all indented. They look like they're centered. So that is a standard modified block. And then we have the indented modified block. So here, it's the same as the standard one, but you'll notice with the paragraphs, each of the paragraphs are indented. So it's an indented modified block. So those are the three major letter styles you'll see. And supplies for written communication, just know you always need paper, you need ink, you need toner. Make sure to, look at your supplies regularly, take an inventory, and if you're running low, tell your supervisor so that she can make another order. You might also have letterhead available to you, and that is nice if you ever need to use it and want to use it. So letterhead is basically, like that thick cream paper, and in the top left corner, you're going to have like Hoag Medical Group and your site address. That's letterhead paper. Now, in terms of the envelopes that we have, you're going to have the 6 3/4 wide and then also the 10-inch wide. Those are the types of envelopes you see. You'll have plain envelopes as well as envelopes that say Hoag Medical Group in the upper left corner for mailing purposes. And a mail merge is a way to, let's say you want to send out a letter to 150 patients. You can use mail merge to generate those 150 letters, and each of the letters is going to have a different patient's name on it so that you can easily create those 150 letters, and then you would just fold them and stuff them into your envelopes. Here is an example of some envelopes we have. So some envelopes are windowed, meaning there's a window right here to see who you're sending your envelope to. This is the format we should use on an envelope. So up here, it'll say like Hoag Medical Group or your doctor's name. And then down here, it'll have the patient's name and their address. So that's how you want to address an envelope. And sometimes too, you will get lots of mail. Make sure to just distribute it to the appropriate parties. And we also have meeting minutes. If you attend a meeting, someone's going to be a note taker and make those meeting minutes that document the meeting. And let's see, one more slide. Just know you have incoming mail to deal with, outgoing mail that's going to be sent to your patients, And if you ever have a problem, just talk to your supervisor. Thank you.